Let me ask you something strange. Imagine two people. Person A earns $30,000 a year. Person B earns $150,000 a year. 5 times more money. 5 times more financial security, right? Now here's the weird part. Studies show that person B is almost just as likely to be living paycheck to paycheck as person A. How is that even possible? How can someone earning $150,000 a year still feel broke at the end of every month? How can someone with a 6-figure salary still feel like money is always slipping through their fingers? The answer has nothing to do with how much money you make. It has everything to do with something sneaky that happens inside your brain every single time your income goes up. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your own spending the same way again. Here's what most people believe. They believe that their financial problems are an income problem. If I just made more money, everything would be fine. If I could just get that raise, land that promotion, start that business, then I'd finally be able to save, invest, and get ahead. It sounds completely logical. More money in, more money saved. Simple math. But here's what actually happens in real life. You get the raise. You feel amazing for about 2 weeks. Then slowly, quietly, almost without noticing it, your expenses start to climb. You upgrade your apartment. You eat out a little more. You tell yourself you deserve it because you worked hard for this. And by month 3, you're right back to that same feeling. That uncomfortable tightness at the end of the month. That low-grade financial anxiety that never really goes away. This happens at $40,000 a year. It happens at $80,000 a year. It happens at $200,000 a year. Salary changes. The feeling doesn't. And there's actually a name for this. Economists call it lifestyle inflation. But psychologists call it something even more interesting, the hedonic treadmill. And understanding how it works at every salary level is the key to finally breaking out of it. Let's walk through the salary stages. Because your spending habits don't just grow randomly. They follow a very predictable psychological pattern. And once you see it, you'll recognize yourself immediately. Stage 1. The survival stage. Roughly $20,000 to $35,000 a year. At this income level, spending isn't really a choice. It's just math. Rent, food, transportation, phone bill. You're playing defense every single month. There's very little room to maneuver. And the psychology here is straightforward scarcity. When money is tight, every decision feels heavy. You check your bank account constantly. You feel guilty about small purchases. A $12 lunch feels like a big deal. But here's something interesting about this stage that most people miss. People at this income level are often surprisingly resourceful. They cook at home. They cancel subscriptions. They find free entertainment. Not because they're disciplined, but because they have no other choice. Constraints force creativity with money. The problem is that most people can't wait to escape this stage. And the moment they do, they stop doing all the things that were actually keeping them financially smart. Stage 2. The relief stage. Roughly $35,000 to $60,000 a year. Something shifts here. You go from survival mode to something that feels like breathing room. And that psychological shift, that exhale, is where the first major spending trap lies. Because the moment financial pressure eases up even slightly, your brain does something automatic. It starts rewarding itself. That coffee you used to skip, you get it now. That streaming service you canceled is back. Those little luxuries that felt impossible before, they suddenly feel earned. And individually, none of these things are a problem. It's the pattern they create. Because every single one of these small upgrades feels justified, feels reasonable, feels proportionate to your new income. But together, they silently consume almost every extra dollar you just earned. This is the stage where most people first experience the illusion of wealth. You feel richer, but your savings rate hasn't actually moved. You're just spending the extra money on better things instead of worse things. Stage 3. The comfort stage. Roughly $60,000 to $100,000 a year. Now we're getting into territory where something psychologically fascinating happens. Your spending stops being about needs or even small rewards. It starts becoming about identity. At this level, what you buy starts to signal who you are. Or more accurately, who you want other people to think you are. You upgrade your car not because your old one stopped working, but because it no longer feels like a match for who you've become. You move to a nicer neighborhood. You buy better clothes. You eat at better restaurants. Psychologists have a term for this: social comparison. Humans are wired to benchmark themselves against the people around them. And here's the cruel twist: when your income rises, the people you compare yourself to also rise. You're no longer comparing yourself to your old college self. You're comparing yourself to your new colleagues, your new neighborhood, your new social circle. And that group always seems to be spending just a little bit more than you. So the goalposts move. Again and again. Stage 4. The status stage. Roughly $100,000 to $200,000 a year. This is the stage that surprises people the most. Because from the outside, someone earning $150,000 looks wealthy. And in many parts of the world, they genuinely are. But inside the life of someone at this income level, the expenses have often scaled dramatically to match. Now it's private schools for the kids, a mortgage on a house that's bigger than what's actually needed, premium everything, gym memberships, holidays abroad, business class upgrades. And there's a very specific psychology at play here. It's called the "I've earned it" mindset. People at this stage have worked incredibly hard to get here. And that hard work creates a mental permission slip. I've sacrificed enough. I deserve to enjoy this. And that feeling is completely human. It's not wrong. But without awareness, it becomes the most expensive feeling in the world. Because at this stage, a person can easily be spending $120,000 to $130,000 of their $150,000 income and genuinely not know where it goes. The expenses are bigger, but they're also fuzzier, harder to track, easier to justify. So here's the core idea that ties all of this together. Your spending doesn't scale with your income. It scales with your identity. What you spend money on at any salary level is almost always a reflection of who you believe you are, who you want to become, and who you're afraid of falling behind. This is why two people can earn the exact same salary and have completely different financial outcomes. One person's identity is anchored to building wealth. The other's is anchored to displaying it. Same paycheck, completely different destination. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the set point theory of happiness. The basic idea is that humans have a psychological baseline, a default level of satisfaction, that we always return to no matter what happens. Win the lottery, you'll feel amazing. Then you'll drift back to baseline. Get a massive raise? Wonderful. Then baseline. The external circumstances change. The internal feeling resets. This is exactly what happens with spending. Every lifestyle upgrade feels like progress. But within a few months, it just becomes the new normal. And the new normal always needs to be upgraded again. The hedonic treadmill doesn't stop running just because you earn more. It actually speeds up. And the really uncomfortable truth? Most people spend their entire career chasing a financial feeling that keeps moving just out of reach. A little more money and I'll feel secure. A little more and I'll feel comfortable. A little more and I'll feel free. But the feeling never fully arrives. Because it was never actually about the money. So what do you actually do with this information? The first and most important thing is this: define what enough looks like before you earn it. Not after. Because after is too late. The spending has already crept in. Before your next raise, before your next promotion, sit down and actually write out what percentage of that new income you're going to save and invest before you even think about upgrading your lifestyle. Financial experts often talk about a simple rule. Try to save at least half of every raise you receive. If your salary goes up by $500 a month, save $250 of it and let yourself enjoy the other $250. This way your lifestyle does improve, but your financial foundation improves even faster. The second thing is to audit your spending through the lens of identity, not logic. Don't just look at what you spend. Ask yourself why. Is this purchase making your life genuinely better? Or is it making you feel like a certain kind of person? Is it solving a real problem? Or is it solving a social anxiety? Most people have never asked themselves this question. And when they do, they're often shocked by the answer. The third thing, and this one is subtle but powerful, is to be intentional about your comparison group. If you spend all your time around people who are conspicuously consuming, your baseline for normal will shift upward. Constantly. Find communities, podcasts, channels exactly like this one, where the conversation is about building wealth quietly rather than displaying it loudly. Your environment shapes your financial identity more than your salary ever will. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. The most financially dangerous moment in your life is not when you're broke. When you're broke, you're forced to be smart. The most dangerous moment is when you first start earning real money. Because that's when the spending choices become invisible. When they feel deserved. When lifestyle inflation masquerades as personal growth. Every salary level comes with its own version of the same trap. The numbers just get bigger. The people who actually build wealth, not the people who look wealthy, but the ones who actually become financially free, they're not the highest earners in the room. They're the ones who figured out the game happening inside their own heads before the money ever arrived. Your income is just the raw material. What you build with it is entirely a question of psychology. And now that you understand the pattern, you get to choose something different.